Hey there, thank you so much for tuning into our podcast. But before I take you to your show, I have a very small request to make. Do check out the other episodes that we have created so far. And as you know, we are available on all major music and podcast streaming apps across the world. So, whichever podcasting platform you're listening to, do hit the follow button and leave us a rating, as that will help us improve our content and reach a wider audience. And with that, welcome to the show. All right, everybody, say that again, mate. It's here again. Well, with my voice, you might be able to judge me because I'm actually too full. I had a lot of things to eat in the breakfast. But before I start counting, let me introduce you to my Indian food enthusiast uh, and the chief of this podcast and the chief of some like million hearts. Let me
Oh,
call it that way. Priyanka Mishra, ladies and gentlemen, let's start clapping slowly. And
I I wish the last line you said must have been true.
all
Uh,
right, and
how have you
with
been,
that,
Bhaiya?
I've been good, but I just wanted to list down the things that I've eaten since morning, and I don't know why I'm still hungry. Maybe it's because of this episode, which is mostly gonna revolve around food. But before I introduce the guest, you know what? I had apple in the morning and some black coffee. Then I ate oats with milk and berries. Then I ate a banana. Then I had some tea. And right now I'm having black coffee again. So it's
Okay.
just never ending process.
How does
So
it feel to be a vegetarian this morning since you are
uh,
a hardcore non-vegetarian? How does it feel?
well, it's difficult. I'm sweating and my body is paining and all of those things are
No
happening.
need sweat till this
My
time.
mind is not functioning properly. I don't even know what to talk. But what I know is we have a amazing guest. I've been waiting and looking forward to this episode for very long.
Yeah.
And she's a Mexican food enthusiast and a sommelier. So people who don't know sommelier, well, we can't help, but she is one. And let's welcome Andy, Andrea Beristain on our podcast, which is like all of you already know. I mean, yeah, 3,000 countries in the world are listening to us. And the podcast name is again, what is that, people?
Say that again, mate.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's it.
Hi, Andy.
Andy, hey, welcome.
Hey guys, well, thank you very much for inviting me over here. It's so amazing to be here with you guys. And yeah, well, I mean, I'm so excited to talk to you about guys all, you know, food, Mexican food, wine. I hope I can share just a little bit of what I know because it's a lot. I mean, when we talk about wine, there's a whole, oh my god, it's a complete different world, right? I mean, it's huge. So um I don't know, I hope we have enough time to talk about like at least the basic things so you
Of
guys can
course.
have like a better idea of what it is. But let's see, thank you very much for having me.
Well, Andy, in the first few minutes itself, you would have got an idea about how unprofessional and stupid this podcast is. So whatever you say is going to be a piece of information for us. So just flow. Just don't restrain yourself from anything. Just keep speaking, and whenever you feel like talking, just shut us up and just take over. So this podcast is yours and not ours anymore.
Yeah. Also, KJ, Bhaiya, could you please stop mocking our own podcast? Just since day one. Just self-deprecation. Andrea, you should now be aware of such instances. More often we are gonna do this. By we I mean KG Bhaiya. Anyway, so let's begin.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Go ahead, Priya. It's an Indian food enthusiast talking to a Mexican one, and I'm just a eater. So I basically eat both kind of foods, and you guys have a conversation. I'm gonna sit and listen.
Yeah. Andrea, we, I am basically non-alcoholic person. I don't enjoy that, but I did ask few of my friends if they have any, questions related to it. Now that I knew that one wine tasting expert is with us, uh, I wanted to know food and wine combinations. How do they work? And is there any prerequisite discipline we need to follow? How does it work exactly? Like, is there any food combination which goes well with wine, and what type of wine would you suggest?
Yeah, well, oof, wine pairing is amazing. Like, I mean, it's a complete different level of an experience. It's an unforgettable experience. It's so so good. I mean, wine pairing, that's the name that that's how we call it. It's wine pairing. It's, well, basically the process of, combining food and with wine to, and this is to elevate the dining experience. Okay, so this has been a technique um that has been going on for like a very long time. Okay, like since forever. Okay, and it's a complete ritual, and I say ritual because there is actually like steps you have to follow to do the wine pairing. Okay, so it's not only about matching food,
Mhm.
it's also about like maximize the value that each component brings to this whole experience. Okay, so um basically the goal of this, of pairing food and wine,
Yeah.
is that the elements, they combine in such a way that it elevates the taste of both the wine and the food. Obviously, there are like some rules, like some well-known rules, like for example that red wines go with red meat and things like that. But in reality, like over the years, this has changed a lot because there used to be a lot of protocols of things that you had to follow and etiquette and things like that. And I mean that's still important, but basically what many sommeliers are saying like nowadays is that basically you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Like you can just the best way to know which wine is better, which wine is yeah, it's, well, the best for you, it's basically individual, as of course we all have different tastes. So the best way to know which is the best wine is to basically wines. I mean, there was I remember my family, it's also like they love wines, and because of the place, the state where I grew up and everything, we have a lot of vineyards. So obviously we have to be very familiar with wines. Okay, so
Yeah.
um so because of that reason, there was a point where every week, or at least like every 3 days, they used to buy like different bottles of wine like randomly and just try them. Just try them and try
That's
different
that's so
wines, and
cool.
that was, yeah, and that was for a very long time. And obviously without any knowledge, of course, but that's actually the best way to know which wine is better. Okay, so but for example, when it comes to pair the food and wine, you have to focus on the seasonings, the sauce, like the main ingredient. Okay, for
Hmm.
instance, so chicken in a sauce with mushrooms has an earthier, rich flavor, so it will need red wine. But grilled chicken with a creamy lemon sauce, for example, would pair well with a white wine, for example.
My God,
Okay.
never thought it like this, huh?
Yeah, yeah, and it's so different, and we can have like so many combinations. That's why it's so amazing. And let me tell you something. I don't know, guys, but when I was a kid, um I used to like play with food and water and things like that. So my mom, when I was obviously a kid, she used to tell me like, no, you should not be playing with the food in your mouth. You should not be playing with water and food on your mouth. Like, of course not, because that was not like decent. But when it comes to pairing wine, that's what you have to do. Okay, so let me explain to you this. So basically, let's pretend that we're having this grilled chicken with the creamy lemon sauce. Okay, so you have to take a bite of it, and then you have to keep that piece of the chicken inside your mouth, and then you take a sip of the wine, and then you have to play with it in your mouth, like literally play with it on your mouth, and then
Wow.
swallow it. That's how the pairing works.
Any personal favorite, or you would recommend this combination?
Well, well, I love desserts, of course. So I love to have for example, rosé wines. Oh my
Okay.
god, it's so amazing. I love rosés. But also white. I think, to be honest, I'm a little bit more fan of white and rosé than red wines. I don't know why, but I love those ones, and I think KG has tried those, the white or rosé. I
Yeah.
think one day he tried those.
Yeah, few weeks back, I think we talked about it in the podcast also, Priya, that I went to a
Yes,
vineyard very
very.
close by.
Yeah.
It was such an amazing place, and I tried like all three of them, red, rose, and white wine, and I felt like everything had its own, you know, charm. Every kind of a wine has its own charm. It's just you cannot pick one there. Maybe, like Andy rightly said, few of the food items would need a white wine, some need a red wine if you are eating something. So, Andy, my question here is, like, do people in real life, I mean, who are actually, I mean, I won't say enthusiast or food enthusiast, somebody in a day to day life, let's say a family having lunch or a dinner, and in case they open a bottle of wine, will they see that it's going as per the food, or it's just something that's very particular to the, let's say, the food enthusiast or sommeliers like you, that you guys
Mm,
practice this, or it's a practice all over the world sometimes? What do you think?
well, actually, not a lot of people know how to do a wine pairing. Okay, so for instance, of course, um, I didn't know everything from the start. So of course, at the beginning, when I was talking to you about this, that we were trying different wines every week and
Hmm.
so on, we didn't know at all. Like, we didn't know this thing, like, oh, we have to have a white wine because the sauce is like this, and now a red wine because the main ingredient is this. No, we didn't know that. So we just basically bought whatever we thought was
Right.
uh good, and we just tried it. Okay, but this is like the thing, like, I mean, the clue of the pairing is what I just told you, of having um the wine with the whatever you're eating inside your mouth and play with it. That's the key. That's how a good wine pairing works.
Wow.
Okay, so
Never
it's not
never
just like,
tried this.
oh, sorry.
I never tried this, never.
No, because actually, well, I mean, our parents told us like, no, you should not play with the food and things. I mean, it's supposed to be something wrong, but it's
Yeah.
actually the way it works, and you have to actually like play with the wine all over your mouth, like all over your mouth, like between your teeth, under your tongue, everywhere, everywhere, to really have your taste buds like into orbit. Seriously, that's how it has to work.
Oh my god. That's that's something, I mean, for us to learn, of course. We are a couple of dumb people who just host a podcast and learn while the process is happening. So yeah. I'm
Again.
talking about you, Priya.
Yeah, okay.
So
Andy, I have
yeah.
another question for you. I mean, being a common man, I've seen people ordering wine and the rates are very different from each other. Is there a category, if a certain wine is expensive, then of course it's gonna be great in taste. And if certain wine is not that expensive but in the middle, so it's gonna be okay. Is there a category around it, or how do I identify if a certain type of wine is abysmal? Is there a theory behind it? How do you look at it?
Okay, well, that is a very important point because obviously, I don't know why, but we tend to have this bias that, okay, so because this wine is expensive, it's going to be amazing. Because this is the most expensive wine in the whole store, this is going to be the best wine. And that is actually not true. That is a misconception that we've had. I don't know why. I don't know it's just if it's just like our capitalist way of thinking, but
Yeah,
it's wrong. It's completely wrong. That's something that like one of the first things that you learn when you get to navigate in this wine world. It's one of the first things that they teach you, like, please stop buying the most expensive wines because it's fake. That's not true. I mean, the best wines are not the most expensive ones. Okay, you can find really cheap wines that are so good. I mean, I don't know, for example, um the wines that I've recently had, a bottle, KG, you'll have to help me with this because I don't know the conversion of rupees and pesos. But for example, it's like less than 200 pesos. I don't know how many rupees is that, but it's super cheap. It's super, super cheap.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
how many pesos you said again?
Less than 200 pesos, like 180 or so.
So it's like basically less than 800 rupees, Indian rupees. You can put it that way.
okay, got
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, and usually, like before, when we started knowing more about this, we used to buy really expensive bottles of like 800 pesos or even 1,000 pesos, which is a lot. I mean, obviously, there are some specific wines that are expensive because of a reason, right? Maybe
Yeah.
it's because they have to be stored like for a long period, and that's how the wines get more expensive. But it's something super important is that also a common mistake that many people do, and well, my family at least, is that okay, you find a wine that you really like a lot, and you have this idea, okay, so I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna buy a lot of this, and I'm gonna keep like one or two bottles, and I'm gonna try them like in a few years because there's this like, okay, so if the ain ages, it's gonna be tasting
Yeah,
different.
that's a phenomenon, you know. Um, I mean, if the wine ages, it becomes even more fine, is what they say.
Yeah, but that is actually not true. Not all wines are made for that purpose. Okay,
Mm.
so well, first, it's super important to know that the most popular types of wine are from Italy, France, and Spain. Okay, so what you'll see on the tag, like on the bottle, to
Hmm.
know if that wine is meant to be kept for aging, is that they have to say something like great reserve or reserve, like that, the name and then reserve, like underneath it. It even says that, but
Right.
we didn't know that. I mean, at least I didn't know that. So that's how you know those are the only wines that are meant to be kept for aging.
All
Mm,
right. So this one thing which Priya asked, like, is it a bracket or a category like cheap wines are not gonna be fine, and you just like discarded it. Even in India, one of the most prominent vineyards is Sula, which is like the vineyard in India which supplies wine all over the country. Maybe in Middle East. I'm not sure if we get something uh, in this part of the country, in this part of the world. But um, I remember I had a friend back in India, in Pune, and he owned a wine shop. So once I went to his shop, and he showed me like a wine from Sula, which was what, 300 rupees a bottle, which is less than 80 pesos in India, 75 in Mexico, 70 75 pesos, you can say. and that bottle was so good, it was so smooth that I can't tell you. It was
Mm-hmm.
such an amazing wine. Even like I have made a lot of my friends taste that wine, and till today they are addicted to that. I mean, not addicted, but in case they want to have wine, they look for that one. And it's less than 75 pesos, 300 rupees.
Wow.
So it's just I mean, the price. And I have had French wine once, and honestly I didn't like the taste because it was too sour for me. um
Mm-hmm.
so those
Ooh,
things happen.
ooh.
What do
Mm-hmm.
you want actually is the smoothness when it
Yeah.
goes down the throat.
Yeah. Well, as I've said, like at the beginning, it basically depends on you, on your taste. Maybe
Yeah,
you are
yeah.
more into sweet wines, maybe you're into more acid wines or more dry wines. It basically is up to you. And now that you mentioned that, there are some terms that we should know. For example, it's acidity, body, and dry. When and also the tannin. It's called tannin. For instance, the acidity, well, it's present in all grapes, and they have this role in the preservation of the wine. So, wines that have a sharper and more crisp taste will
Hmm.
have higher levels of acidity. The body, it means, well, it's a term that we use to describe basically the flavor profile of a wine. So, for instance, a full bodied wine is one with a powerful flavors and strong aftertaste. Okay? Because when you have it on your glass,
Hmm.
you actually have to like stir the glass with the wine, and
Yeah.
you'll see that on the glass we have different names for this. They can be called tiers or legs. Okay, so the longer the tiers or the longer the legs that it has, the glass of wine, when you stir it, and you know that the liquid is like falling down, those like tiers or legs, um it's the body of the wine. Okay, so the longer they are, and they don't have to cut, it's the best, the better the body it is of the wine.
Got it.
Okay.
And is there a like a temperature maintenance which needs to be done for a particular type of wine? Like red wine requires certain temperature to be served, and white wine requires certain temperature to be served. Is there a thing like that?
Well, yeah, actually, unfortunately, that is, I cannot explain it like here because I have to, it's something that you have to see and you have to feel. Okay.
Yeah.
So, so for instance, um, there can be, if, let's say that you have a dinner and you put a red bottle of wine on the refrigerator for an hour, let's say. Okay, so
Mm.
that means that the wine is going to be now super cold, like super super cold. It has to have like a specific temperature, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
but it's something that you actually have to feel. You have to feel it. I mean, if you guys like ever have an opportunity to take a course, or if you're more interested in this adventure of wines, I definitely encourage you to take a course, because of course there are a lot of things, like more than half of the things about wine, they cannot be said or learned through
Wow.
only a podcast. I mean, you have to actually obviously taste it, feel it, and obviously experience it. That's the best way to learn about
So there
wine
are
and
wine
basically about
wine
everything.
tasting courses that basically teach you the different types of wines, their applications, their usage, or maybe the pairing and the temperature that they should be served at. Some wines, they are like best served when chilled. Some are best served like at a room temperature. It depends again. I mean, I may be wrong. You can correct me. It depends on the preference of the people. Like personally, so I don't drink like alcohol that much, but if I'm drinking, my preference would be always wine because of so many things. Like it doesn't give you a hangover, or it's like not as hard as other drinks for that matter.
Well, that's actually not true. Wine hangover
Oh,
is the worst hangover.
oh my God. Now let the experts speak. Go ahead. Tell me about it.
It's the worst hangover because the thing about wine is that you don't feel the level of alcohol that much as if, for example, you're drinking any other thing like whiskey or whatever. You
Yeah.
don't feel it. So it's like, oh, and especially if um you are into sweet wines like me. Oh my god, you're never going to feel it. When you least notice, you're already drank like 2 bottles of wine and it's too late. And you're super drunk. Yeah, that happens. That happens a lot. You don't actually feel it. You Because it at first it's like juice. Like, okay, so it has a little bit of alcohol, but so you don't feel like you're getting drunk. So that's why wine it can be a little bit dangerous when you're having it with your friends or even by yourself, you know?
It's tricky.
Yeah,
It's
it's
tricky, Priya.
tricky. Yeah.
Tricky business.
Yeah, it
Right.
is.
Okay. So, I had another a question with you around wine mostly. So, you said that the most prominent wines or the elite wines, they come from France,
Mm-hmm.
Spain, and Italy.
Italy.
Italy,
Yeah.
right? And we have always heard this that pizza and wine, cheese and wine.
Yeah.
These are like the
Oof.
best combinations,
Yeah.
like the made for each other things. How did this happen? How did this combination was? How was this discovered? Or um, we always, whenever we go to a vineyard or anywhere, we get cheese with wine. It's very common to find cheese at a wine counter or somewhere. How is cheese and wine paired together? How did this thing came into picture?
Well, basically, as it may sound super like absurd, but
Okay.
it's actually the way it was. Like basically, just one day, like decide to have, because I mean, wine is not something new. Okay, it's not something that is recent. Wine, I think, is one of the most ancient beverages that has ever existed. Like super super old.
Yeah.
Okay, obviously the methods of doing wine have changed and like have evolved, if you can say that. um but it's basically well the the way it was. I mean, there's not like a specific way of or how this was invented or why did it happen. It's basically okay, so wine was it used to be like uh, a beverage that you could take like at any point of the day, like normal, like if it was
Hmm.
water. Okay, so it's just basically to pair it with your food. um like if you were drinking water or soda, that's exactly the way it was, and it's still going on in some places. Okay, like
Yeah.
for example, I'm sometimes when I'm having my lunch or something, um I I have a glass of wine, you know? So it's basically the way it happens, okay? So it's okay, so instead of having water, you have wine. So if you were having cheese and things like that, because I know that for example in Indian food you don't have a lot of cheese, which is so sad because I mean speaking on a
We
Western
have,
perspective, oh my god,
yeah,
I love cheese. So and there are so many varieties of cheese,
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Of
hard
course.
cheese, really like the stinkier the cheese is, the oh my god, the better it is.
I mean, yes. I agree to that, and this. I mean, I don't get this, especially in the western part of the world. From India's western side, what we have seen is, you know, like you just mentioned, having a lunch or a dinner. You instead of having water, you have a beverage. It could be a beer or a wine. That's very common in this side of the world, isn't it?
Yeah, Yeah, that's very common, mainly in Europe. Okay, so
Okay.
there is like this saying that, for example, French kids, they grow up with wine. Okay, so they have wine since like very young age. Of course, that is not true. Okay, that that does not happen, but it's
Okay.
because it's such a habit. It's such a habit of having a glass of wine like at any point of the day. Like you can have a glass of wine even for breakfast. Okay,
Wow.
so it's super normal. Okay, it's super normal to have a glass of wine with any meal, or even at any point of day. It's like, so yeah, so basically instead of having water, or you're feeling thirsty, okay, let's have a glass of wine. That's how they are. I mean, not, I say they because mainly this happens mainly in Europe. Okay, it happens it a little bit in Mexico, but I think mainly in Europe. Okay,
I get it.
especially in those countries like Spain, Italy, France. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Okay.
in Mexico also I've seen like people having, let's say, beer or wine during their food. But I think, yeah, this is where it basically comes from. So with wine, like I have this very last question, Priya. If you had have something, please shoot. So this very last question that I have is, so like I'll go back to pairing of the wine again. So let's say if I'm having something spicy,
Mm-hmm.
okay, which is the case in most Indian food, if you go by that. So in case I'm having something spicy, would you suggest me a red wine or a white wine or a rose wine?
Red wine, actually. Now that you mention it, yeah, yeah, of course. The difference of Indian food and Mexican food, it's huge. But for example, for curry, I think it matches very well a red wine.
Red wine.
For example, because also there are categories of red wines per se. But for example, in more specifically, Pinot Noir, that's how it called, Pinot Noir. It's
Hmm.
French. Uh, it would go so well with Indian food, or even like a Shiraz. That's also another name of
Yeah.
of a wine. It could go really really well. But for example, chicken, seafood, and vegetable. On the other hand, they would go very nice with a Grigio. That would be very very nice.
Okay. And
Andres,
this one thing,
Andres,
yeah,
yeah.
this one thing that I've like noticed across, like a lot of people have this talk around alcohol and wine. Like, okay, alcohol is not good for your health, it damages your liver, it deteriorates so many other things, but they never say like this for a wine. Like I've heard this from a lot of people. Like they started drinking wine at 40 or 35
Hmm.
something, late 30s, and it's just one glass a day, and they are thinking that it's bringing so much difference in their body. It's just helping them function well. It's helping the to reduce their cholesterol and other things also. I mean, I don't want to get into the medicinal aspects of this, but we have heard this about the benefits of wine so much from so many people. Would you like to say something about that, Andy?
Yeah, well, for example, now that you mention it, something that it's well known, well, if you start this adventure in wine world, is that for instance, red wine in moderation. Obviously, everything when you take it like as
Yeah,
too much is bad. Okay,
it's bad.
there has to be a moderation. Okay, I'm not encouraging you guys to have wine like the whole day. No. Okay, you have to have it in moderation. Okay.
You gotta tell this to Priya, okay? I can control myself.
I'm trying.
When she loses it, she loses it.
Oh
Guys,
my
I
god.
cleared my thoughts in the beginning. Go back to the minute. Oh, yeah, Andrea, you were saying.
Okay, but for example, it is well known that red wine has um, been thought of as heart healthy. Okay, so the alcohol and certain substances in red wine, antioxidants,
Yeah.
they may help prevent coronary artery disease. That is something that is well known. Okay, the condition that leads to heart attacks. I mean, everything that might affect your heart, red wine can help you to prevent it because of all the things that
Are
contains.
you serious? Because
Yeah.
we had a podcast, I think last episode that we spoke about. So there's so many heart attack cases that's coming amongst the youngsters. You see people of very young age, from 20s to 30s, and mostly this range, they fall because of the heart attack. And it's just they don't have any history of heart diseases, just something that happens in a moment, and they go for it. So you're saying that wine might help?
Yeah, of course. It's not medicine, okay? So it's not
Yeah,
something
of course.
miracle. It's not a miracle that will happen, but it will help you to prevent having those type of diseases, okay? Because of the antioxidants that it has. But again, as I said, with moderation, okay? So there shouldn't be any stigma of drinking wine, because wine has, as I said, I mean, it has been part of the world like for a very long time, and it's part of social, religious, and cultural
Yeah,
events. Like,
yeah,
so
yeah.
it's super normal, okay, but with moderation, okay. So yeah, I mean, red wine specifically, uh, it is like well known. I mean, there are also some studies about it. Unfortunately, I'm not very familiar with them, but I know that there have been like some studies
For sure, yeah.
that that back up this theory per se. Okay.
Got it. Got it. Priya, do you have any questions for wine?
Actually, I just now wanna jump into food, the most
Yes.
loved topic of ours.
Shall we take a quick break and come back? And while we talk about the, on the other side of the break, we'll talk about the Mexican food and a bit of comparison with the Indian food. So stay tuned, everybody. We'll be back in 3, 2, 1. No, it's gonna take 10 seconds. All right, bye. So we are back. Uh, First half has been so interesting and so informative, especially for both me and Priya, because we, as you know, we know nothing about anything in this world. And this podcast is a way to educate ourselves, which we didn't do in the school. And do they teach about wines in the school here in Mexico? I mean, just a question that just came to my head.
Well, unfortunately, no.
Okay, it's a
N-
self experiment that you did. And with
yeah.
some self experiments, the co host of this humongous podcast, like, you just be knowing that a total of like what, 11 people listen to it. But yeah, Priya, who's
I am gonna cut you off. Okay, Andy. Now
go
that
ahead.
KJ Bhaiya said that you are a food enthusiast, and just wanted to know what all cuisines you have had and which one is your favorite, and have you tried the Indian one, and which dish was your favorite?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, oof. I've I tried Indian food actually, like I think it was a week or 2 weeks back that I actually went out with KG and another friend, and we went to have Indian food. It was so good. It was
Yeah.
so good. I mean, before that, I also had tried Indian food, but the one that I tried there, it was very nice. KG, you will have to help me with this because I'm terrible with names. So I already forgot the names of the of the things that
All
we
right. So
tried.
so the things that we ate few weeks back when we went to an Indian restaurant. So it was lamb curry. Then we had chicken. I think it was chicken tikka masala. Then we had aloo bagan, Priya. Aloo bagan was
Oh,
great. Yeah, it was something that you won't find it very often here, but I mean, Not in a lot of Mexican cuisines you'll find it, but we had it, was super. And we had it with what? Rice and roti. So, I mean, I could totally see Andy was in tears, and the other friend that we had, Ari, she was loving it. They both, I mean, we didn't leave even a granule left in the utensil. We just ate everything.
Yeah.
You know, Andy, this is a good sign that you didn't left any even a grain, because it's a saying in southern parts of India that this is a sign that the guest really liked your food. I mean, if
Yeah.
I am serving you something and you're not leaving even a single dot of rice on your plate, it's a good sign that you really like our food. So,
Yeah. And
Well.
um, um, I mean, fine, Indian food, we talk a lot about it in all of our episodes. Mexican food, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you. So lately, I've started to develop this taste, and I started to like actually the Mexican food and so many things around it. There's this show on Netflix which is called The Final Table. I'm not sure if you guys have watched it
I've
or.
heard of it. I've
Yeah.
heard of it.
So I'll just give you a brief concept about the show, how the show runs. So in every episode, they'll feature one country. So that's the name of the episode. Let's say Brazil, or sorry, Brazil. Yeah, Brazil is one country. Mexico is one country. India is one country. So they have like 8 or 9 episodes, and they're featuring one country at a time. And Mexico was one of them. India was one of them. I think UK was one of them because of the English breakfast and other things. Then they had Brazil and Italy and all of these. I mean, few countries like that. What I felt was, I mean, Mexican food. It has been so famous all over the world that we find Mexican food stores or food stalls irrespective of which geography you go to. Just like Indian cuisine.
Hmm.
You go to like outskirts of any country, like in Mexico, I've been to outskirts of Cancun and those places, and you'll find an Indian kebab store there. And it's, I mean, Mexico, still you don't have a lot of Indians or the expats, unlike United States or Canada or parts of Europe and UK or the Asia Pacific, where I mean, you'll obviously find Indians all over. But in this part of the world also, you'll find Indian restaurants. Similarly, for Mexican, I mean, that Netflix show, I saw that there was an episode dedicated to Mexico, and they prepared something called nopales. So I'll like give it to you, Andy. Now, tell us something about what nopales is, because this is something which I had zero expectation. Like people can even eat this thing.
Yeah, well, it's basically cactus.
Yes, it's basically cactus that's served on your plate, and it's
Yeah.
very healthy and it's very
Hmm.
good. So Andy, just explain few things about Mexican food and how it became like a global talk
Overview.
point. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, again, another complete different world.
Yes.
Yeah, but now that you mention it, yeah, many foreigners or tourists, like in general, they are super shocked when they first come to Mexico and they see like that we eat cactus.
Yeah.
It's shocking. I mean, yeah, and if I see it like as an outsider, of course it will be shocking for me too. But it's actually so good for your health.
Yeah.
Nopales, it's called. It's so good, and especially if you're having like digestive problems. Um, for example, I personally have a lot of digestive problems. Okay, so even my doctor recommends um having nopales as breakfast or dinner, like at least once a day,
Once. Okay.
because of the fiber that it has. Okay, it's super helpful, and also many people use it to lose weight and things like that, and even because it's like the texture that it has when you cut it, like some like it. I don't want to say it like that, but it's like saliva. It's coming out of it.
Yeah, it's kind
Like
of jelly.
yeah, it's jelly,
Yeah,
but it's also like for example, many people has have found like many benefits, like oh it's good for your skin, like if you're having like this pimple or something, you should put a little bit of it. Like it has a lot of benefits. Okay, so nopales are amazing, are the thing, to be honest. But well, it's basically pretty much the same as, for example, when you talked to me once about like Indian food, when I ask you like the same question, like, what is your favorite dish? It's also very hard for me to choose one,
yeah,
because also if you go to a different state, you'll find a different cuisine. Okay.
exactly.
Completely different. Okay. But I think, to be honest, I'll go with more southern cuisine, to be honest. The one that we have where we are in the state Querétaro, it's good, but oh my god, the southern one, I love it. I love it. There is we have a state in Mexico that's called Oaxaca,
Yeah,
where you will have um also something very interesting, crickets. Okay, we also eat crickets.
Oh,
Yes, but we don't eat them alive. Okay, so
they are
it's
quite annoying, by the way, Andy, so I forgive you for that.
just eat them all. Just wipe
yeah,
Yeah.
them off the surface of the earth.
yeah, yeah. So they are prepared. Okay, I don't know exactly the way they make it, but it's like salty and like soury. They are so good, and you have those with we have this called a tostada, which basically like a fried tortilla,
Yeah,
and you put
yeah.
on top of it guacamole, guacamole, and then you put some crickets on top. Oh my god, the taste! Like I'm already craving for it. It's
So I'll
so
tell you,
good.
I had this cuisine and in Querétaro and in this city itself. And in the very initial days of when I was here, so I went out with a friend, and she told me that she's gonna make me taste some amazing Mexican food. And all of a sudden, I see these fried crickets on the table. I'm like, "This is what you're talking about?" And she's like, "Just eat it with a nacho, and you're gonna
Have
love
you
it."
had crickets? Have you had crickets?
Yes, I had it,
How was it?
and I loved it. So you won't feel like
Nice.
it's a cricket or anything. You'll just feel something crispy going inside and
Yeah.
just
Of course, it's
melting.
dead now. It's just a stupid, tasty animal, insect in front of you. So enjoy.
Yeah, yeah. And one thing I would like to talk here is, of course, the I think this is the most sold food item in Mexico, in all of Mexico. That's the tacos. And a world, you can say worldwide phenomenon, worldwide identity of Mexican food. That's tacos. Whenever we hear
Yeah.
of something, tacos in any country, in India, if we have tacos somewhere, we'll know, okay, this is coming from Mexico. This is inspired from Mexico. Tell us something about tacos. How it became so famous.
Well, basically, that's something that is like a stereotype. Like, of course, you talk to someone, oh, Mexico, oh, of course, tacos, tequila. It's like a
Yeah,
stereotype, like that everyone has, because tacos, as you said, are so famous. And honestly, it's hard to find a good taqueria. Taqueria is the name of the place where they
tacos.
sell tacos.
Yeah,
Okay, but it's basically you have a lot of this variety of meat, because it's meat that you can have in a tortilla. Okay, so the most famous one is tacos al pastor, which is basically pork meat
yes,
with like a red sauce uh, and then a tortilla, but with you put cilantro and onion and lemon, and oh my god, it's so good. It's so good. It's so tasty. I mean,
I
obviously it's
can
going
hear
to
you
be super
smile,
famous because
Andy.
Yeah, I'm loving how she's actually pronouncing
Yeah.
tortilla. It's like music to
Yeah.
ears.
And she's getting excited at the same time and she's smiling. I bet if we have a video, podcast sometime, we just will have Andy for her expressions and the way she gets excited.
Yeah, of course. I mean, oh my God, yeah. I love it. I mean, even last night I had tacos, but I could have them again today. So it's something that you will
That's
never
the
get
story
tired
of
of,
every
to be honest.
Mexican, okay? That's the story of every Mexican. They had tacos last night and they can have it again for breakfast. Don't tell me
Yeah,
that.
yeah, because it's not only tacos that you can have in a taqueria, okay? You can also have what we call tacos de guisado, which is basically um taco of the food that we of any other food. For example, we have this rajas con crema, which is basically chili, like
Okay.
chopped chili with corn, cheese, and cream. Okay, and it's so good also. Oh my God, so good. And but you can have it as a taco. Basically, you can have anything in a taco.
Anything
Anything.
inside a
Yeah,
tortilla
anything inside a
Wow.
makes a
tortilla.
taco. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's how it why it's so famous, because you can have anything. Like it's I think you have a similar type of, but I forgot the name. That is like a tortilla that we also had it. What is the name of that?
Roti. It's a
Yes,
roti.
that.
Paratha roti. Yeah.
As
Yeah.
you have it on every meal, we also have tortillas for
Yes.
every meal.
Yeah. That's a source of carbohydrate, you can say, for us.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So it's part of our basic needs at the table. So whenever we're having any lunch or whatever, we must have tortillas.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
Andy, Indians have a lot of like Indians and Mexicans have a lot of similarities. For example, you just mentioned what we call parathas. It's actually Mexican influence on India. Also, the use of kidney beans. If I am, of course, I haven't had a proper Mexican food yet, and I'm a vegetarian. So, for example, if I'm in Mexico, what particular food would you recommend, even if a non-vegetarian is gonna come with you? So, which particular food would you recommend for a vegetarian and a non-vegetarian?
Okay, super important. There is also a misconception that if you have Mexican food, you won't have anything vegetarian. That is not true. Okay,
Yeah.
because as I said, Mexican food, the variety is so wide that for example, in your case, there is something that is called quelites, which is
Okay.
basically a plant, a plant that you can find at not at any place, but you can find it especially on the countryside of for example, in Querétaro, which is basically a plant that you just like put it on a pan and like stir it, and you add a little bit of salt, and you can add like some spices or so, and it tastes so good, like so good. You can have tacos of that, of course.
wow.
Yeah, with anything. Yeah.
Yeah. uh and it is so tasty. You put like also chopped onion and a little bit of garlic, and it tastes so good, so good. My mom is a fan of those things. I When I was a kid, I didn't like that because, oh, I mean, as a kid, I didn't like greens a lot. But it's also super famous, and it's actually not easy to find. If you go, for example, if you live in a city, it's easier when you live in the countryside. Okay, but things like that, or guacamole. I don't know if you like avocado, because I know not a lot
I
of people like it.
No, I love it. Actually, there are only fewer times that I had because it's really costly in India. It's not that
Oh
common in
no.
India, but yes, I have had, and it's very creamy, buttery taste, and I really like it.
Mm, yeah, yeah. It's
And
so good.
let me like just bust this one rumor that's going around. is that Indian food and Mexican food, they both are spicy. Okay, let's cut this crap. Indian food is 10x more spicy than what Mexican food is.
A hundred
Yeah, when
Mexican
percent.
KG
food,
Bhaiya told me this, I was like, oh my God, are
yeah,
you serious? Because I've listened so much this in
that's the talk.
sitcoms.
That's the talk around that Mexican food is as spicy as Indian food. No, if let's say a non-spicy food is X, which you basically get in Europe or let's say UK or America, where they don't eat a lot of chili and all of those things. Mexican food is twice or thrice the spice level of those kind of foods. Indian food is 10 times of that similar food that you get in other parts of the world. So it's at least 7, 8 times more spicy than what you get in Mexico.
Yeah.
The reason why I'm telling you this, because I have like made a lot of my Mexican friends try Indian food, and I've kept the spice level medium, not high, not low. I've kept it medium so that it's less for me. And then I went out and like or people I invited people over and made them have that had that food, and they were like, oh my god, this is so spicy, I need some dessert, I need some water, I need some this, I need some. I was like, this is like the uh least spicy food that I'm having right now. That I'm cooking basically for you. I especially took care to not put enough chili so that it's eatable for you and still not eatable. So remember, once I cooked for Andy, we were at a friend's place and we were cooking egg curry and rice. Very simple dish, right? No nonsense, no like preparation time, nothing. It's very simple. I like for three people, I put what, half a teaspoon of chili powder. Just it was made for three people. Half a teaspoon of chili powder, just to ensure that she's able to eat it. So I'm just canceling this uh, notion that's going out there that Mexican food is as spicy as Indian food. It's not. It's just not.
Let's launch a petition that
Let's launch it. Let's cut this.
not to
Whoever is
declare
running
that.
this conspiracy theory should be barred immediately.
Yeah.
Because based
Yeah.
on that logic, Priya, if you go out in a restaurant in Mexico and you expect something to be spicy, okay, I'm not saying that they're not spicy at all. There are few things which are as spicy as Indian. There's few sauces, few salsa. They are as spicy as Indian curry or salsa, that Indian sauces that you get, chili sauce or something like that. But in general, that's a special case. In general, the food that you regularly eat, it's zero spice. I mean, I won't say zero spicy. It's tasty. Of course, it's tasty, but a lot less spicy than what we have in India.
Yeah.
So that's just one thing I'd like to put it out. All right. Any other questions, Priya? Any final thoughts?
Okay.
The
Next
food and
time
wine
Andy is
episode,
gonna be here, we are gonna make her taste the very famous lal mas, which is your favorite, KG Bhaiya.
for sure. So,
We'll
like
just
Andy told, right, there's in different states that you go in Mexico, you'll find something special, some speciality of that particular state. Similarly, in India, in every state, in every region, you'll find something that's very specific, very special about that place. Some food item, and that's not at all found in the other regions. Like a lal mas, which is found in Rajasthan, which is one of the states in India. If you go to the southern part of India, you won't find lal mas. You won't be able to see it. No store sells lal mas. It's basically goat meat. It's cooked in some kind of a chili.
red
Um,
chili paste. So the red chili is specific to Rajasthan. That's why you
yeah,
won't find the similar taste. Similarly, sambar, if you have heard of
South
like
Indian
South
dish
Indian food. So the taste which you'll be getting in Chennai per se, you'll not get in Delhi. It's because of the type of pepper. It's because of the type of spices they use. So it's specific. So that's the beauty which we
Yeah.
admire.
and that's the beauty that we are blessed with in this world, basically, not just India. Like So many different things to eat, so many different things to explore. Every place has some taste of its own, and people are so happy and proud about it. And that's what I love about Mexico. The people, they're so proud of their Mexican food, their Mexican traditions, the wine, the culture. And that's what it is. That's what makes me think like, okay, this is the exactly same thing we do in India. Everybody is so proud of their culture and their food and their lifestyle. There's so much to learn, when once you start exploring the different sides of the world. I'm like, hardly, I I mean, I'm not sure if people would actually book a flight ticket to Mexico to come and you know visit this place as a tourist. Only if they are around, only if they live in United States or Canada, or they are in Mexico or somewhere in the Latin America region. They might come to places like Cancun because they've heard of that place. It's a commercially very established tourist destination. So similarly, I think um, we are just refraining ourselves from not accepting the food and the culture of other countries. So like I told you, it has been nearly 1.5 years, 15, 16 months that I've spent in Mexico. And let's say in the last 6 months, I've started developing taste about the food. I was never reluctant to start exploring about it, but every time I did it, I felt like, okay, maybe the food that I've cooked back home is it's my comfort food. But slowly, I can even like live on Mexican food for days now by not having any Indian food. This is the current state that I'm in, is the taste that I've developed so far. So I just want people to be independent of the food addiction. Okay, I've heard this a lot from people who travel abroad for just tourism. Let's say somebody goes to Europe for a, for a 2 week tour. By the end of the third day, they would want some Indian food because now they're done. Now they're done with the croissants and coffees and the pastries. Now they're done with that. Now they need some curry, some spices. That's
Yeah.
that's how it
I
works.
think I kind of between Indian food, Mexican food. A lot of spices. Like a lot.
Yeah.
They're combination of spices. It's not just chili. It's not just chili. It's
Yeah.
a combination of flavors which have their own importance with every dish. Like in few dishes, you might not want to use them. In few of them, they are the most important part. So that's how it works basically. And just like I think similar would be the case for Mexican cuisine, or let's say French cuisine or English cuisine or Italian. They just survive on pizza. My friend went to Italy for like 3 days, and he was telling that everybody eats pizza there and pasta. That's their staple food. I mean, they don't even try for something else. That's what they cooked for breakfast. Something similar is getting cooked for lunch, and that's what they're gonna eat in dinner, and that's how it's gonna
After
work for them.
watching after watching Eat, Pray, Love, I too wanted to go to Italy just to have pizza because it was just so beautifully shown how they made pizza, and every sauce was different. So it's lovely.
Or Naples.
Also, yeah, yeah. And he was surprised that she just said how many spices we use. But there's a thing, Andy, it's actually an insight that we have only like 4 to 5 spices, and we have a dabba, like a small box,
Box.
which have circular like keepers in it. And then just using these 4 spices, we can make more than 7 dishes in front of you, and they will taste so different from each other. You'll be surprised
Wow.
how are these not similar in taste. The same number of spices were used in each one of them. So I think Gordon Ramsay was got really surprised by this concept, and he personally went to each and every like street stalls, which is also a very famous concept in India, in Kolkata, Delhi, and everywhere. Now it's widespread. So that's actually very surprising and
That's
somewhere weird also,
fascinating.
how we
Yeah.
are, yeah, how we are just using turmeric powder, chili powder, and cumin powder and coriander powder. These four spices I have in my dabba, and I can make five different Indian dishes in front of you.
And
So
you'll be mind boggled at, okay, you put the same spices, but they're not
same
tasting the
set of
same.
spices, but they are tasting so different from each other. Every dish is different from each other. So yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
I mean,
again,
we love our spices. Also, it's a history, guys. The
that's
fight
historic,
over
exactly.
spices. Yeah, that's how it started.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
totally agree.
like I mentioned, we'll come back to Mexican food and shall wrap the episode. So Mexican food in total, I think I'll rate it amongst the top cuisines in the world because of the simplicity and sheer healthiness that the food has. They do not spend too much time in cooking, is what I felt. I went to some very traditional, places in Mexico, like a village or a small town, and they were celebrating a birthday, and they cooked the entire food at home, just like we do in our homes when we invite people. We cook all the food at our places and do not order something or anything. They cooked so many things for so many people, and everything was home cooked. And I said, like, this is so similar. This is so similar to how we do it in India. And the food, it was like, oh my god, it's a delicious. Now, we should end this podcast. Otherwise, it's gonna be difficult for, I think, all of us to not go out wild and eat something.
Also, I
Yeah.
have had my dinner just 1 hour ago,
Oh
so
god, it's
it's gonna
pathetic
be
for you.
really difficult for me.
It's really difficult. It's my lunch time, so I can still manage. So, but for you, all right, Andy, thank you so much for coming. And we had a great conversation, a great
Yeah.
episode about wine and food, especially wine. We never knew the facts that you shared with us and the concepts of different kind of wine and their
Yeah.
combination with the food and how we play around with it. Just amazing. And I think we could have you back. Please do come back whenever you want to have a chat with us. And we're all here to listen
Sure.
to you
Sure.
and
I'd love
talk
that.
more about in detail.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, Andy, for sharing such beautiful insights. Thank you.
No, it's a pleasure to be here with you guys. Thank you very much for having me here. I mean, I try to like, but it's a lot. I mean, it's oh my god, it's so much. I hope that at least I could share a little bit of something new to you guys. I mean, because it's
Of course,
so much.
you did. I know it's a topic that you cannot just cover in a 65 minute episode. Like, we have to make parts of it. But anyway, this was a brilliant episode and amazing insights that we heard from you. And we hope to see you back again. And everybody who's listening, if you really love this episode, you have some questions or you have some thoughts about other cuisines or Indian or Mexican cuisine, some insights that you want to share, please do write to us at please say that again mate at gmail.com, or you can DM us on Instagram. Our handles are there in the description of the show. And we'll also link Andy's Insta handle in the
Sure.
description, so you can go text her and ask more about the Mexican food and the recommendations, and she'll be great to suggest some good wines also. So that time to go and eat something, guys.
Yeah.
All right, bye bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Hey there, thanks for listening to the podcast. Just in case you liked the episode, do leave us a rating and follow us on whatever podcasting platform you're listening to. It will be of great help if you share the podcast with your friends and tell them what podcast you're consuming. And you can also send us your questions, suggestions, feedbacks, and AMAs at pleasesaythatagainmate at gmail.com, or you can DM us on our Instagram. Our handles are there in the description of the show. And with that, I'll take your leave and see you again next week.